Welcome to this documentary. On this channel, we explore the real stories shaping our world, from global politics and international relations to culture, history, and the people behind the headlines. Today's documentary takes us to Greenland, the world's largest island, a land of ice, tradition, and growing global importance. As powerful nations compete for influence, resources, and strategic advantage, Greenland has become a key focus of international attention. But beyond politics and headlines, Greenland is a homeland, rich in culture, identity, and history. In this documentary, we will examine the forces shaping Greenland's future, the voices of its people, and the global impact of Arctic geopolitics. Thank you for watching. Let's begin. Greenland is the largest island in the world, stretching across the Arctic between North America and Europe. Despite its enormous size, Greenland has a small population of around 56,000 people. Most of the population is Inuit, with a strong cultural identity rooted in Arctic traditions, fishing, hunting, and close community life. Although Greenland is geographically closer to Canada, it is politically connected to Europe as an autonomous territory within the Kingdom of Denmark. Greenland governs many of its internal affairs, including education, healthcare, natural resources, and local laws. However, Denmark still controls foreign policy, defense, and certain economic matters. This political arrangement has existed for centuries, but Greenland has been gradually gaining more autonomy, especially since the Self-Rule Act of 2009. Many Greenlanders now openly discuss the possibility of full independence in the future. For a long time, Greenland was seen as remote and isolated. Its icy climate, rugged terrain, and sparse population kept it away from global attention. However, in recent decades, Greenland has become increasingly important because of three major factors: climate change, natural resources, and global security. Climate change has had a dramatic impact on the Arctic. Rising temperatures are melting sea ice at record levels. While this has serious environmental consequences, it has also opened new shipping routes across the Arctic Ocean. These routes can significantly reduce travel time between Europe, Asia, and North America. For example, ships traveling between China and Europe could cut weeks off their journey by using Arctic routes instead of traditional paths through the Suez Canal. This makes the Arctic, including Greenland, strategically valuable for global trade. As the ice continues to melt, access to previously unreachable areas becomes possible, attracting more interest from powerful nations. Greenland is also believed to contain large reserves of rare earth minerals, uranium, iron ore, oil, and gas. Rare earth elements are essential for modern technology, including smartphones, electric vehicles, wind turbines, and military equipment. These materials are increasingly important in the global competition between major powers such as the United States, China, and the European Union. China currently dominates rare earth production, which has raised concerns in Western countries about supply security. Greenland's potential as a new source of these materials makes it extremely attractive. However, mining in Greenland is controversial. Many local communities worry about environmental damage, pollution, and the impact on traditional ways of life. Some Greenlanders support responsible mining as a path toward economic independence. Others believe protecting the environment should come first. This debate continues to shape Greenland's political future. Greenland's location is not only important for trade and resources. It is also critical for global security. The United States has operated a military base in northern Greenland since the Cold War. This base is part of a missile warning system that monitors potential threats from across the Arctic, particularly from Russia. The Arctic is one of the shortest routes for missiles traveling between North America and Eurasia. Because of this, Greenland plays a key role in early warning systems and space surveillance. As tensions rise between major powers, especially involving Russia and China, Greenland's military significance has grown. Denmark's connection to Greenland dates back to the 1700s. For much of its history, Greenland was treated as a colony. In the 20th century, Denmark began reforms to improve living conditions, infrastructure, and political rights for Greenlanders. In 1979, Greenland gained home rule, allowing local control over many domestic issues. In 2009, the Self-Rule Act expanded this autonomy even further. Greenlanders gained control over natural resources and the right to pursue independence through a future referendum. Despite this progress, Denmark still represents Greenland internationally. This means decisions involving foreign governments, military agreements, and diplomacy are handled by Copenhagen. This arrangement has worked for many years, but as Greenland's importance grows, questions about sovereignty and self-determination have become more urgent. Greenland is not just a strategic location or a resource-rich landmass. It is home to a distinct culture, language, and identity. Inuit traditions emphasize community, respect for nature, and survival in a harsh but beautiful environment. Many Greenlanders feel strongly about protecting their land and way of life from outside control. The idea that powerful foreign nations might treat Greenland as a strategic asset rather than a homeland has caused concern and resistance. There is a growing independence movement in Greenland. While full independence would bring challenges, such as economic stability and international recognition, many people see it as a way to gain full control over their future. Greenland sits at the intersection of major global interests. It is important for security because of its Arctic military position. It is important for resources because of its mineral wealth. It is important for trade because of new Arctic shipping routes. And it is important for geopolitics because of competition between global powers. As the Arctic becomes more accessible, competition for influence increases. Russia has expanded military bases in its Arctic territory. China has invested in Arctic research and infrastructure. The United States wants to maintain its strategic advantage. Greenland's position makes it a key piece in this global puzzle. While governments talk about defense, trade, and minerals, Greenlanders see their homeland differently. For them, Greenland is about community, heritage, and survival in a challenging environment. Many want economic opportunities, but also want to protect their culture and land. This tension between global interests and local identity is at the heart of the Greenland debate. As Greenland's importance has grown, so has international attention. When powerful leaders make statements about controlling or influencing Greenland, it naturally raises concerns. Greenland's status as an autonomous territory, Denmark's role in foreign affairs, and the island's strategic value create a complex political situation. This background helps explain why recent statements from the United States caused such a strong reaction in Europe. The issue is not just about land, it is about sovereignty, respect, and the future of international relations. Donald Trump has shown interest in Greenland long before the most recent political tensions. In 2019, during his first presidency, he publicly suggested that the United States should buy Greenland from Denmark. The idea surprised many people around the world. Danish officials quickly rejected the proposal, calling it unrealistic and inappropriate. Greenland's leaders also made it clear that their homeland was not for sale. At the time, the idea was treated by many as a political curiosity rather than a serious plan. However, Trump's interest in Greenland did not disappear. Over the years, he continued to describe the island as strategically important for American security and global influence. By 2026, the issue returned to the international spotlight. This time, Trump's approach was more aggressive. Instead of simply talking about purchasing Greenland, he began linking the issue to trade and economic pressure. He argued that Greenland was essential for U.S. national security, especially because of growing competition in the Arctic region. Trump repeatedly stated that the Arctic was becoming a new frontline in global geopolitics. He pointed to Russia, or expanding military presence in the Arctic and China, growing interest in Arctic trade routes and resources. According to Trump, the United States needed to strengthen its position in the region, and Greenland was central to that goal. But when European leaders continued to reject any discussion about transferring Greenland to U.S. control, Trump reportedly turned to economic tools. He announced plans to impose tariffs on several European countries that opposed his Greenland ambitions. Tariffs are taxes placed on imported goods. When tariffs increase, products become more expensive for consumers and businesses. This can hurt trade, damage economies, and strain diplomatic relationships. Trump suggested that tariffs could start at 10% and rise to 25% if European countries continued to resist. The countries mentioned included Denmark, Germany, France, the United Kingdom, Sweden, Norway, and others. These were not just any countries. They were longtime allies of the United States and members of NATO. Using economic pressure against allies was unusual and controversial. Trump framed the tariffs as a way to protect American interests. He argued that if European nations benefited from U.S. security protection, they should also cooperate on strategic priorities. From his perspective, Greenland was not just a Danish or a European matter, it was a key part of global security. However, many European leaders saw the situation very differently. They believed that linking Greenland to trade penalties was a form of political pressure. Some described it as economic coercion. Others called it blackmail. The idea that one ally could pressure another using tariffs raised serious concerns. It suggested that economic power was being used to influence political decisions, rather than diplomacy and mutual respect. The timing of Trump's statements also mattered. Global trade was already under strain due to economic uncertainty, supply chain disruptions, and geopolitical tensions. New tariffs could worsen these problems. Business leaders across Europe warned that higher tariffs would hurt industries such as automotive manufacturing, agriculture, and technology. Consumers would likely pay higher prices, and companies could lose access to important markets. Despite these concerns, Trump continued to defend his position. He insisted that Greenland was vital to American security and that the United States had the right to protect its interests. Some of his supporters agreed, arguing that the U.S. should take stronger control of Arctic strategy. They believed that Greenland's location, resources, and military value made it too important to ignore. Others, including many international analysts, criticized the approach. They argued that cooperation, not pressure, was the best way to manage Arctic security. They warned that economic threats could weaken alliances and create long-term damage. Greenland itself became a central part of the debate. Greenlandic leaders emphasized that their people had the right to decide their own future. They reminded the world that Greenland was not just a strategic asset, but a homeland with its own culture, history, and political goals. Many Greenlanders felt uncomfortable being discussed as part of a geopolitical strategy without their consent. They stressed that any decisions about Greenland should involve Greenlandic voices first. Denmark also responded strongly. Danish officials said that Greenland's status was not open for negotiation. They made it clear that sovereignty and self-determination were not for sale. The situation created a rare moment of tension between the United States and Europe. Normally, NATO allies cooperate closely on defense and security issues. Disagreements are usually handled through diplomatic channels. This time, however, the language was more direct and confrontational. The possibility of tariffs created a sense of urgency and seriousness. European leaders began meeting to discuss a common response. They wanted to protect their economies, while also defending political principles. Behind the scenes, diplomats worked to calm the situation. Many hoped that dialogue could prevent a trade conflict and preserve long-standing alliances. At the same time, public attention grew. News outlets across Europe and North America covered the story. Headlines focused on the unusual combination of Greenland, tariffs, and international pressure. For many people, the situation raised important questions. Should economic tools be used to influence political decisions? How should allies treat each other in times of disagreement? And who gets to decide the future of a territory like Greenland? Trump's actions also sparked debate within the United States. Some politicians and analysts questioned whether the approach would harm American relationships with key partners. Others defended Trump's strategy, saying that strong leadership sometimes requires tough decisions. Regardless of opinions, one thing was clear. Greenland had become more than just a distant Arctic island. It had become a symbol of larger global issues, including power, influence, and sovereignty. The tariff threats marked a turning point. What started as a controversial idea about buying Greenland had turned into a serious diplomatic challenge. European leaders now faced a difficult situation. They had to respond in a way that protected their economies, respected Greenland's rights, and maintained international stability. As tensions continued to rise, Denmark prepared to take a firm public stance. The next phase of the story would show how Europe responded to the pressure, and how one powerful message would shape the global conversation. When news of the tariff threats and renewed pressure over Greenland began to spread, Denmark's government responded quickly and firmly. Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen made it clear that Denmark would not accept economic pressure over the future of Greenland. Her message was strong, direct, and designed to send a signal not only to the United States, but to the entire international community. In a public statement, Frederiksen said that Europe would not be blackmailed. This phrase quickly became a headline across European and international media. The words reflected more than just Denmark's position. They represented a wider European stance against using economic pressure to influence political decisions. Frederiksen emphasized that Greenland is not for sale, and that its future must be decided by the people of Greenland themselves. She reminded the world that Greenland is an autonomous territory with its own government and political rights. Any decisions about its future, she said, must respect international law and the principle of self-determination. The Danish government also stressed that Greenland's status was not a bargaining tool. It was not something that could be negotiated through trade threats or financial pressure. Denmark's position was based on long-standing legal agreements, democratic values, and respect for Greenlandic identity. Greenland's own leaders supported Denmark's stance. They stated clearly that Greenland was not interested in becoming part of another country. Greenlandic officials repeated that their people had the right to decide their own future without outside pressure. As Denmark spoke out, other European leaders quickly expressed their support. Governments across the European Union and NATO made it clear that they stood with Denmark and Greenland. France, Germany, the United Kingdom, and several Nordic countries issued statements criticizing the idea of using tariffs to influence political decisions. They warned that such actions could weaken trust between allies and damage long-term relationships. European officials emphasized that NATO is built on cooperation, shared security, and mutual respect. Using economic pressure against allies, they argued, goes against the spirit of partnership that has existed for decades. Many leaders also pointed out that Greenland is not just a strategic location. It is home to a population with its own culture, language, and political goals. Respecting those people and their rights, they said, is essential. The European Union began coordinating its response. While no immediate trade retaliation was announced, EU officials made it clear that Europe would defend its economic and political interests if necessary. At the same time, European diplomats focused on reducing tensions. Behind the scenes, they worked to keep communication channels open with the United States. Their goal was to avoid a trade conflict while standing firm on core principles. The phrase, "Europe will not be blackmailed," became a symbol of unity. It showed that European countries were willing to stand together when faced with external pressure. For Denmark, the situation was about more than just Greenland. It was about protecting sovereignty, democracy, and the idea that powerful nations should not force smaller ones into decisions through economic threats. Prime Minister Fredriksen's leadership was widely praised within Denmark. Many citizens felt proud that their government was defending Greenland and standing up for European values. Public opinion across Europe also supported the firm response. Surveys and social media discussions showed that many people believed Denmark and the EU were right to resist pressure. Some commentators described the moment as a test of European unity. In the past, European countries sometimes struggled to agree on foreign policy. This time, however, they appeared more united. The situation also raised questions about the future of US-Europe relations. For decades, the United States and Europe had worked closely together on security, trade, and diplomacy. Disagreements existed, but they were usually handled quietly through negotiations. The Greenland issue brought those disagreements into the public spotlight. It forced European leaders to clearly state their position on sovereignty and economic pressure. Despite the tension, European leaders were careful with their language. They criticized the policy, not the American people. Many emphasized that they still valued the transatlantic partnership and wanted to maintain strong relations with the United States. They also highlighted shared interests, such as security, trade, and stability. The goal, they said, was not to create conflict, but to protect principles. Greenland's role in the discussion continued to grow. Greenlandic politicians used the opportunity to speak about their future, their rights, and their vision for self-determination. Some Greenlanders saw the international attention as a reminder of their importance on the world stage. Others worried that powerful countries were focusing more on Greenland's strategic value than on its people. Greenlandic leaders repeated that any future changes in Greenland's status would come through democratic processes, not foreign pressure. The Danish government supported this message. Denmark emphasized that Greenland's autonomy must be respected and that Greenlanders should have the final say on their political future. As the debate continued, European unity remained strong. The message was consistent. Economic pressure should not be used to influence political decisions, especially when it comes to the sovereignty of territories and the rights of their people. The firm response also sent a signal to other global powers. It showed that Europe was willing to defend its principles and stand together when necessary. For many observers, the situation marked a turning point. It demonstrated that Europe could act with a single voice on sensitive geopolitical issues. While tensions with the United States did not disappear overnight, the European response helped stabilize the situation. It made clear that any future discussions about Greenland would need to respect legal frameworks, democratic values, and the wishes of the Greenlandic people. The message from Denmark and Europe was simple but powerful. Greenland is not a bargaining chip. Europe's values are not for sale, and political decisions should be made through dialogue, not pressure. This strong stance would soon influence how the public reacted, not only in Europe, but also in Greenland itself. As political leaders spoke, ordinary citizens began to raise their voices in the streets. As political leaders in Europe took a firm stand on Greenland, the situation quickly moved beyond government offices and into the streets. Ordinary citizens in Denmark and Greenland began to express their opinions publicly. For many people, this issue was not just about international politics. It was about identity, dignity, and the right of a people to control their own future. In Denmark's capital, Copenhagen, large crowds gathered in public squares and near government buildings. Protesters carried signs with messages such as "Hands off Greenland," "Greenland is not for sale," and "Respect our sovereignty." The atmosphere was serious but peaceful. People from different backgrounds came together to show support for Greenland and to reject the idea that economic pressure should be used to influence political decisions. Many Danish citizens felt a strong connection to Greenland. Although Greenland has its own government, it remains part of the Danish kingdom, and many people in Denmark see Greenland as more than just a territory. They see it as a community with a unique culture and history that deserves respect. In Greenland itself, the reaction was even more emotional. In the capital city of Nuuk and in smaller towns across the island, people gathered to express their concerns. Some wore traditional clothing, others held the Greenlandic flag. Many spoke about the importance of protecting their homeland from outside control. For Greenlanders, the situation touched on deep historical experiences. For much of its past, Greenland had limited political power and was heavily influenced by decisions made in Denmark. Over time, Greenland gained more autonomy and a stronger voice in its own affairs. The idea that another foreign power might try to influence Greenland's future reminded some people of earlier periods when Greenlanders had little control over their destiny. Greenlandic leaders used the moment to speak directly to the international community. They emphasized that Greenland is not just a strategic location on a map. It is a place where people live, work, raise families, and preserve their cultural traditions. Many Greenlanders spoke about their connection to the land. The Arctic environment shapes daily life, from fishing and hunting to travel and housing. Protecting the land is not just an environmental issue, it is a cultural and personal one. Social media played a major role in spreading the message. Photos and videos of protests quickly reached audiences across Europe and beyond. Hashtags supporting Greenland's autonomy began trending. People shared messages calling for respect, dialogue, and peaceful diplomacy. For younger Greenlanders, the moment felt especially important. Many of them had grown up with the idea that Greenland should one day become fully independent. The international attention made them more aware of how global politics could affect their future. In Denmark, the protests were also about national values. Many citizens believed that Denmark had a responsibility to protect Greenland's rights and to stand against any form of pressure or intimidation. Some protesters spoke about the importance of democracy. They argued that political decisions should be made through elections, discussions, and legal processes, not through economic threats. Others focused on the idea of fairness. They questioned why a powerful country would try to pressure smaller nations over an issue that should be decided by the people directly affected. The protests were not limited to Denmark and Greenland. In other European cities, smaller demonstrations took place in support of Denmark's position. These gatherings showed that the issue had become a symbol of broader concerns about international behavior and respect between nations. Many people who joined the protests did not see the situation as an attack on the United States as a whole. Instead, they focused on the specific policy approach. They believed that strong alliances should be based on cooperation, not pressure. The public response also reflected growing awareness of Arctic issues. Climate change, resource competition, and geopolitical rivalry have made the Arctic a topic of interest for many people. Greenland's role in this region made it a powerful symbol of these global changes. Some protesters carried signs highlighting environmental concerns. They warned that increased interest in Greenland or its resources could lead to pollution and damage to fragile ecosystems. For them, protecting Greenland was also about protecting the planet. Greenlandic artists, musicians, and writers also joined the conversation. Through art, music, and public statements, they expressed pride in their culture and called for respect for Greenland's identity. The protests were not aggressive. There were no major confrontations or violence. Instead, the gatherings focused on unity, peaceful expression, and clear messaging. This peaceful approach helped strengthen public support. Many observers praised the calm and respectful way people expressed their views. Media coverage of the protests played an important role. News outlets showed images of Greenlandic flags, traditional clothing, and emotional speeches. These visuals helped audiences understand that the issue was not just political. It was deeply personal for many people. Interviews with Greenlanders revealed a strong sense of pride. People spoke about their language, traditions, and connection to the Arctic landscape. They wanted the world to see Greenland not as a prize to be claimed, but as a community to be respected. Some Greenlanders also expressed mixed feelings. While they appreciated international attention, they worried that too much focus on Greenland's strategic value could lead to more pressure in the future. These concerns highlighted a difficult balance. On one hand, global interest could bring economic opportunities. On the other hand, it could threaten local control and cultural preservation. In Denmark, political analysts noted that public opinion strongly supported the government's firm stance. This gave Danish leaders confidence to continue resisting pressure. The protests also showed that foreign policy decisions can have real emotional impact on ordinary people. What might seem like distant diplomacy can directly affect how people feel about their identity and future. For many Greenlanders, the situation reinforced the importance of self-determination. They wanted to be the ones who decide Greenland's path, whether that means remaining within the Danish kingdom, seeking full independence, or choosing another political arrangement. The message from the streets was clear. Greenland is not just a piece of land, it is a home, a culture, and a community. As protests continued, the international community paid closer attention to Greenlandic voices. Journalists, diplomats, and researchers began including more perspectives from Greenland itself. This shift in attention helped remind the world that geopolitical discussions should include the people most affected by them. The public reaction also influenced how European leaders communicated. They became more careful to emphasize respect for Greenland's people, culture, and political rights. The demonstrations showed that public support matters in international disputes. When citizens speak clearly and peacefully, their voices can shape political decisions. As the Greenland issue remained in the headlines, one thing became increasingly clear. This was no longer just a disagreement between governments. It had become a broader conversation about respect, identity, and the future of international relations. The voices from the streets added a human dimension to a complex political situation. They reminded the world that behind every geopolitical issue are real people with real lives. With public opinion firmly expressed, Attention now turned to the wider global impact. How would this situation affect international alliances, trade, and Arctic politics? And what would it mean for the future of cooperation between Europe and the United States? As the situation around Greenland continued to develop, attention began to shift toward the wider consequences for international relations. The strong reaction from Denmark and Europe had already sent a clear message, but many experts started asking what this would mean for future cooperation between the United States and its allies. For decades, Europe and the United States have shared close political, military, and economic ties. They have worked together through NATO, supported each other during global crises, and maintained strong trade relationships. Disagreements have happened before, but they were often managed quietly through diplomacy. The Greenland issue, however, brought tension into public view. It raised questions about how alliances function when economic pressure is used in political matters. Some analysts worried that this approach could weaken trust between partners. European officials emphasized that strong alliances depend on mutual respect. They argued that partners should resolve differences through dialogue, not threats. This principle, they said, was especially important in a world facing shared challenges like climate change, security risks, and economic instability. At the same time, European leaders made it clear that they still wanted to work with the United States. Their goal was not to create conflict, but to protect European values and legal principles. Behind closed doors, diplomats worked to reduce tensions. Meetings were held to discuss trade concerns, security cooperation, and Arctic policy. These discussions aim to keep communication open and prevent the situation from escalating into a larger conflict. The Arctic region itself became a major focus of attention. Greenland's strategic importance is closely linked to the Arctic's growing role in global politics. Melting ice has opened new shipping routes and increased access to natural resources. This has attracted interest from many countries, including the United States, China, and Russia. Experts explain that Greenland sits at a key geographic position between North America and Europe. This makes it important for military defense, satellite monitoring, and Arctic research. However, European leaders stressed that strategic importance should not override democratic principles. They argued that cooperation in the Arctic must respect the rights of local populations and follow international law. The Greenland debate also influenced how European countries thought about economic independence. Some policymakers began discussing the need for stronger European trade protections to reduce vulnerability to external pressure. This included conversations about diversifying supply chains, strengthening internal markets, and reducing reliance on single trade partners. The situation also affected public opinion about global power dynamics. Many people began questioning how powerful nations use their influence and whether smaller countries are treated fairly. In Denmark, political commentators said the crisis had strengthened national unity. Citizens felt that their country had defended its values and stood up for Greenland's rights. In Greenland, the situation sparked deeper conversations about the future. Some people saw the international attention as a reminder that Greenland's path toward greater independence would require careful planning and strong institutions. Greenland's government emphasized the importance of building economic stability, improving education, and protecting cultural identity. These steps, they said, would help Greenland make its own decisions confidently. The debate also highlighted the importance of international law. Legal experts pointed out that territorial sovereignty and self-determination are protected principles. Any attempt to change borders or influence political status must follow legal procedures. This reinforced the idea that global stability depends on respecting established rules. The Greenland issue became an example in political discussions across Europe. It was used to explain why unity matters and why clear communication is essential in foreign policy. Some leaders said the situation showed that Europe needs a strong, united voice on the world stage. When countries stand together, they can protect their interests more effectively. At the same time, they stressed the importance of maintaining open dialogue with all partners, including the United States. For many observers, the crisis was not just about Greenland. It was about the future of international cooperation in a changing world. Global politics is becoming more complex. Economic competition, security concerns, and climate change are reshaping how countries interact. In this environment, trust and respect are more important than ever. The Greenland debate showed how quickly a single issue can influence relationships between major powers. It also showed how public opinion, media coverage, and political leadership can shape the outcome of international disputes. European media continued to follow the story closely. Analysts discussed possible long-term effects on NATO, trade agreements, and Arctic cooperation. Some experts believed the situation could lead to stronger European coordination on foreign policy. Others warned that continued tensions could create uncertainty in transatlantic relations. Despite these concerns, most leaders agreed on one thing: dialogue was essential. They emphasized that disagreements should be addressed through negotiation, not confrontation. This approach helped prevent the situation from turning into a full trade conflict. Over time, the intensity of the headlines began to decrease. However, the lessons from the Greenland situation remained important. It reminded governments that public statements matter. Words can influence markets, relationships, and public trust. It also showed that smaller regions and communities like Greenland can become central to global discussions. For Greenlanders, the experience was a powerful reminder of their global significance. It showed that their homeland plays a role in international politics, even if their population is small. At the same time, it reinforced their desire to control their own future. For Denmark, the situation strengthened its image as a country willing to defend democratic values and protect the rights of its territories. For Europe, it demonstrated the power of unity. And for the international community, it served as a lesson in how diplomacy, respect, and cooperation remain essential in a rapidly changing world. The Greenland debate may have started with economic threats, but it evolved into a broader conversation about sovereignty, identity, and global responsibility. It showed that political pressure can be met with calm, firm, and united responses. As attention slowly shifted to other global issues, the message from Denmark and Europe remained clear. Respect matters, dialogue matters, and the future of any land should be decided by the people who call it home. As the Greenland situation gradually moved out of the daily headlines, its long-term impact remained an important topic in political and diplomatic circles. What began as a strong statement and a series of threats had turned into a lesson about sovereignty, respect, and the balance of power in modern international relations. For Denmark, the episode reinforced the importance of standing firm when national values are challenged. The Danish government showed that even a smaller country can protect its interests by relying on international law, on diplomacy, and strong partnerships. Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen's clear message helped shape public opinion and strengthen Denmark's position on the global stage. In Greenland, the situation encouraged deeper reflection about the future. Many Greenlanders felt proud that their voices were heard and that their homeland was defended. At the same time, the experience highlighted how global interest in the Arctic can affect local communities. Greenland's leaders continued to emphasize self-determination. They reminded the world that Greenland's future would be decided through democratic processes, not external pressure. This message became an important part of Greenland's political identity. The episode also influenced how European countries viewed their role in global affairs. The unified response showed that Europe can act together when core principles are at stake. This unity helped protect European interests and demonstrated the value of cooperation. European leaders began discussing ways to strengthen diplomatic coordination. They recognized that speaking with one voice makes it easier to defend shared values such as democracy, sovereignty, and respect for international law. The situation also encouraged Europe to think more carefully about economic resilience. Some policymakers suggested reducing dependence on external pressure by strengthening internal markets and diversifying trade partnerships. These discussions were not about isolation, but about balance. The goal was to remain open to cooperation while protecting political independence. For the United States, the reaction from Europe provided important feedback. It showed that allies expect respectful dialogue rather than pressure. While strong leadership can shape global policy, lasting partnerships are built on trust. Many American analysts pointed out that cooperation with Europe remains essential for global security, climate action, and economic stability. Maintaining positive relationships benefits all sides. The Greenland situation reminded the world that even symbolic actions can have real consequences. Public statements, media coverage, and diplomatic reactions can influence markets, alliances, and public opinion. It also showed how quickly local issues can become global topics. Greenland, a remote Arctic region, suddenly became the center of international attention. This attention brought both opportunities and challenges. On one hand, it highlighted Greenland's importance. On the other hand, it raised concerns about external influence. For Greenlanders, the key message was clear. Their culture, land, and political future deserve respect. They are not just part of a strategic map. They are a people with a voice. The episode also contributed to broader discussions about how powerful nations interact with smaller ones. Many observers argued that influence should be exercised through cooperation, not pressure. International law remains a foundation of global stability. Respecting borders, sovereignty, and self-determination helps prevent conflict and build trust. The Greenland debate reinforced these principles in a very visible way. Looking forward, experts believe the Arctic will continue to play an important role in global politics. Climate change, new shipping routes, and resource exploration will keep the region in the spotlight. This means Greenland will remain strategically important. However, its people and leaders have made it clear that any future developments must respect their rights and wishes. The situation also showed how public voices matter. Peaceful protests, social media campaigns, and community discussions helped shape the narrative. Ordinary citizens influenced how governments responded. This reminds us that democracy is not only about elections, it is also about participation, expression, and engagement. Media coverage played a key role in shaping public understanding. By showing Greenlandic perspectives, journalists helped humanize the issue. Instead of focusing only on strategy and power, the story included culture, identity, and community. This balanced coverage helped audiences see the bigger picture. The Greenland episode may fade from headlines, but its lessons remain relevant. It teaches us that respect is essential in international relations. It shows that unity can protect shared values. And it reminds us that even small communities deserve a strong voice in global discussions. For Denmark, Greenland, Europe, and the wider world, the situation became a reminder that diplomacy is strongest when it is guided by fairness and dialogue. In a world where power can sometimes overshadow principle, standing up for what is right still matters. The message that Europe will not be blackmailed was not just a political statement, it was a declaration of values. Values that include respect for sovereignty, belief in democracy, and commitment to peaceful cooperation. These values will continue to shape how nations interact in the future. And as global challenges grow more complex, these principles will become even more important. Because in the end, the strength of international relations is not measured by pressure, but by partnership. Thank you for watching this documentary. If you found this analysis informative, don't forget to like the video and share it with others who care about global affairs. Subscribe to the channel for more in-depth coverage on international politics, world news, and major global events. Your support helps us continue bringing clear and accurate stories from around the world. Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and stay informed.